Hello, everyone, and welcome to the last November show of the month. And what an awesome show that we have lined up for today, and an awesome looking panel, I must say. But today is about digital tools for parent and community engagement. And I am so excited because our host and our leader today is, she's just awesome. So you're in for a treat. I'm Courtney Durosset, the Chief Information Officer in Floyd County, and I am so excited to be joined by the KY Go Digital team. We have Heather Warrell, who is Executive Administrator of Digital Innovation and a consultant for KDE Library Media Specialist. We have Elaine Abernatha, our Digital Innovation Leader for JCPS. We have Brooke Whitlow, Community and School Media Coordinator for Nelson County Schools, and Whitney York, Technology Integration Specialist out in Murray Independence. And also joining on our panel is Allison Langley out in Hardin County. How's it going, ladies?
Going well.
Yesterday was Brooke's birthday, and today our host, Mimi Ratliff, is her birthday. So happy birthday, Mimi!
Yay, Mimi! Yay, Brooke!
Brooke's 29 and she's 31, so welcome. 30s are good. But she is the teacher engagement resource and co-founder of JCPSForward for Jefferson County Public Schools, and I am so excited to hear what she has to share on her birthday.
So, first of all, happy birthday to Brooke, and happy birthday to everyone else out there. Today, I share a birthday with Eddie Rabbitt, famous country singer that my mom used to tell me about. He had the song, "Don't It Make My Brown Eyes." No, that's Crystal Gayle. "I Love a Rainy Night" is Eddie Rabbitt. So there we go. I'm so happy that you guys invited me to talk today about parent and teacher engagement. I guess when people ask me what I do, I connect people. I sort of think of myself like Cliff off of Cheers. Sometimes I'm like Norm because everybody knows me, but I'm full of useless, funny, sometimes pretty cool information, and I try to use that humor and all of my connections to help connect folks. I work in JCPS, so I did help to co-found JCPSForward, and then I work across the state informally leading the ESET 2KY work, which kind of parallels what you guys do. ESET 2KY, like KY Go Digital, nobody gets paid for it, and nobody has to pay to attend. So I'm here today to help schools and districts kind of get to know how to meet your audience. So with that, I'm going to share my screen and get ready to take it away. So before we begin, I want to ask you, all right, so I want you to take 1 minute and I want you to think about the methods that you use as a school, as a community, as a principal, but what do you use to connect with your community? So ready? Go. Now, if you want to write this down, feel free. May only have 1 or 2 things. I can think of 4 or 5 that hopefully you will have. Guys that are on here, the team, what is your main method that you use to communicate?
Facebook for me.
Yeah, as a district at Facebook. And while people are watching, I didn't mention that, but if you could pop in the chats and communicate, Allison and Elaine and Whitney are all popping in and out. So if you have questions or you want to participate, please pop in because we're checking out the chat too.
Perfect. All right. So I tend to think about reaching parents on a scale of 1 to 10. And hopefully you use that list that you just made. I'm hoping that you are at least a 5, that you have a method to reach out and that your parents and that your community know who you are. I'm going to mention my good friend Rob Folk a lot, who is the principal at Marion C. Moore School in JCPS, because I feel like the slide would need to go to about 15 when you think about how he messages. Brooke, I know that you have taken over and blown up some of that messaging in Hardin County. And I know that Courtney, I've seen a lot more about Floyd County schools lately. And it's not just about the pure numbers of engagement. It's a lot of making it meaningful. Does that make sense, guys? Making it meaningful?
Absolutely. You definitely want to not just muddy the waters. You want to make sure that people keep following you so that they know when you speak, it's going to be something that they need to listen to.
When you are reaching out to the audience, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. I know that people freak out over Snapchat a little bit. I tend to think of it as if you have parents that use Snapchat and you have communities that use Snapchat, then you can use Snapchat. YouTube. I look at what JCPS has done with their digital learning channel, and then I look at this channel and I see that schools, districts, large groups of people can use YouTube. And then Remind. My son is a high school sophomore and he is terrible at messaging anything to me. So his Remind is truly the way that I connect. Class Dojo and then Blooms. So Kelly Stidham, my good friend, told me a little bit about Blooms, and I asked her why she liked it better than Class Dojo, which a lot of elementary schools are using Class Dojo. She said that for the most part, it takes some of the negativity out. I know that some schools complain because, and parents complain because they see how bad their child is doing sometime, and they get that negative information and it sort of gamifies it. So she said Blooms is a way that you can still share the photos, that you can still share the classwork. You can also sign up for parent-teacher conferences with Blooms. You can volunteer for in-class stuff. So Blooms is a way that I would suggest if you're wanting to get into that game that you check out. And there are free accounts, and even I looked at it this morning, and if you are a school or a district and you want to try it out, they will they'll let a few of your teachers or a few of your schools try it before you invest some money in. And I know that Class Dojo is free. It does have some limitations. So I know that Blooms has a little bit more to offer.
I was just going to mention, like, from a parent perspective, my very first experience in like communication from a parent, like teacher perspective really was with Blooms. Vivian's kindergarten teacher used Blooms. And so from a purely parent perspective, I actually got to know Blooms a lot more than Class Dojo. And this year, my son, actually, his teacher uses Class Dojo, and I prefer Blooms. So it's a little bit, I guess, not quite as popular as the Class Dojo. Really like it. Just speaking as a mom, and what I like about it really is it makes me feel like I'm a part of my kids' class a whole lot more than Class Dojo has. And again, I'm just kind of dabbling into the Class Dojo waters, but just speaking from the old mom perspective, I'm a big fan of Blooms.
So that's interesting that I've heard now from you and Kelly, and both of you have mentioned Blooms. Because I'll be honest, I had never heard of it until this morning when I started talking to Kelly, and now I had someone interact when I was pitching it in the where I work in my room. I have a lot of instructional folks, and somebody had already, after listening to our conversation, they had already sent it to their child's principal to share. So I thought that was pretty cool.
No, too. Like, I mean, it very well could be just that the difference in like the teachers, like the way the teachers are using Class Dojo versus Blooms. I mean, that could be it. Might be easier to do one thing on one versus the other. Like, I'm literally speaking purely from a parent perspective on that. But I mean, I will tell you that I just like the teachers would share. I mean, it was almost like 3 or 4 times a week. There'd be like big chunks of pictures. And so I don't know if maybe from the teacher perspective, it's easier to share those things. Maybe, I don't know. Whitney, you're nodding your head. What's your experience?
We are really heavily into using Class Dojo, but I'm like nodding my head, like sharing of the pictures, because I've seen Blooms with a younger, like a preschool pre-K class. I think Lou, that works in the office with me, gets that from her niece's pre-K class. And I think the same thing. There's a lot more visuals, a lot more positive notes. And although we like Class Dojo, it's just kind of a more simplistic platform. And so maybe it's a way for not to totally switch what you're doing, but if you're already doing Dojo and Blooms is a little bit easier to share pictures and that kind of thing, that's what we like. We like those visual things. We like to feel like we're a part of the class. I was like, when you said that, like you feel like a part of the class, that's really important. We want to make sure we do that with our kids.
I really like that, because I feel like it's continuing to take input, continuing to build. And I've been out of the classroom for 3 years, and we use Class Dojo, and we still do because it's comfortable. And so I think now that it always looking forward can be a cool thing to do, and starting to look at different things. Start to talk about picking a theme. So do you guys, I know that Brooke, you have a theme now, right? Your theme or your hashtag for your district is impossible. How did you choose impossible for your theme, Brooke?
Well, because we create the impossible. Impossible. We say it's impossible.
That, and I have writers all in.
I'll practice that for you. How about that?
Yeah, I have Allison Gregory has the Writers All In, which is a theme for her school. We have TM Genius up at Mill, and then again, Rob Folk has made the hashtag No More is one of the most popular and most used hashtags at the district level in JCPS, and it's a school level. And then my favorite, this was tweeted by our district on the first day of school. Does anybody know who this is? If you're guessing Marty Polio, you could be correct. And they used We Are JCPS as that hashtag. Our district, I have to give it to them. Our district does an amazing job of really sticking with something and using it all the time. I went to Learning Forward, and I was talking with Charlotte Mecklenburg, and they also had 3 district-wide hashtags. And there was someone from a school district in Georgia that will remain nameless, but it's a big district. And they said that they had 70 some hashtags. And I asked how they kept them all correct and how they knew what to use when. And the woman looked at me and she said, I really don't know how to, I really don't know how to answer that, because we don't really track our hashtags. And so one of the things that I want to suggest to schools and to districts, once you have a theme, is to actually track your theme. And one of the things that I use to track is called hash tracking. And this is a 24-hour snapshot into the life of JCPS. You see that JCPS chat, which is a hashtag that we use just during our monthly chat, has 0 tweets. You look down at that We Are JCPS, that hashtag, and in the past 24 hours, there have been 128 tweets. And our JCPS backpack that Heather and Elaine and our digital innovation team uses, there have been 43 tweets, and you can look at that over an amount of time and see who's using it, and you can see where they're coming from. And it's coming up pretty slowly. But over the past week, there have been 68 people using that theme of the Backpack of Skills Initiative in JCPS, and they have reached 80,000 people. And through hash tracking, you can kind of see what's going on and keep track of that. Elaine, I know, uses a different method for KY Go Digital. She uses some Autocrat and things like that. But it's really important that if you're going to have a theme, that you're also following through with that theme and making sure that you're coming back and interacting with it.
So Mimi, real quick, I love the data tracking to track the impact of your strategy. I think that's very wise. Is hash tracking free?
So no, hash tracking is not free. Hash tracking is an annual fee. I convinced JCPS to pay for that because we can look at something over time. If I were just in a school, I can use probably just a Twitter analytics or a Facebook analytics. If you are wanting to keep track of several hashtags and be able to look at those folks that are interacting the most, and possibly those folks that interact that have the biggest bandwidth, then I might suggest hash tracking. You can order 3 hashtags for a year. And the great thing about hash tracking is it's cheaper than a lot of the social media trackers because it only does hashtags. I know some people use Sprout Social and some other things to go ahead and schedule tweets. I like hash tracking for the simple fact of it just does one thing well, and it tracks those hashtags, and then you can share them.
I've noticed when you do JCPS chats, or sometimes with Kentucky Go Digital, with our virtual event even, you would, on our chat, you would flash up some data. Is that what you were using when you like show us our data from a chat? You were using hash tracking? So
yes, completely. One of the things that I think is the easiest to do, if I am in a chat or if I am collecting a 24-hour sample, they have the ability to do a quick screenshot, and they will put users, tweets, reach, and impressions all in one. And they are really nice to interact with as well. So if we're doing a JCPS chat, and I'll always thank them anytime that we do something, because they will always interact and spread that message. We looked as a district into buying something that would be just an overarching meet everyone's needs, and we realized that they were really expensive because they did so many different check boxes, and there was not one that just did hashtags and track your analytics of that and didn't want you to be able to do lots of other features. So we went with that. We used to piggyback it a lot with Storify Chatter. After we would have an event, that we would always use a Storify on the back end, but now we use something called Wakelet, which is another free way to condense what you're doing and share that out. So I know that Randall Sampson, we just had an event, and someone else actually made our Wakelet for us that we didn't do. I'm like, oh, forgot to do that. So you have to build a team. And when I started talking to principals in JCPS a few years ago, there was this level of trust that I don't think was there, because they thought that if you were going to have a social media team, that you had to just have your admins in charge. And so let me say that when you create a team, not everybody has to have the same level of access. So if you're going to build a team to start sharing out what you're doing and sharing out on social media and helping to build your messaging internally, I'm hoping that you include your instructional coaches, your office staff. There's probably a clerk or secretary at the office that knows everything going on and knows what time everything starts. Those folks need to be on there. Your library media specialist. You know, I will say that the library media specialists in JCPS are doing so much work this year, just in sharing out, and they have quality shares. They're not just throwing out pictures, they're throwing out links, they're throwing out times, they're throwing out graphics. Team leads, those nerdy folks like me who are in your building that are really savvy on social media, your PTA president, because that PTA president can share those PTA events, and then your athletic directors and coaching. People sometimes fear giving access to some of the PTA, but you can always give rights to update. So I would not want, if I'm a principal in a building, I would give my secretary or my library media specialist different rights than, let's say, the basketball coach or maybe even the PTA person. So just because a person on your team doesn't mean you have to give them the full keys to the kingdom. And I think the more folks that you have, the better.
I want to chime in here just to kind of get a little bit on what's going on in the chat, but also just to kind of reiterate what you said, Mimi. And this resonates so much with me when you and I first met, 3 years ago, back when you were Brooke's age, 29?
Wow. Yeah.
And Heather too, when Heather and I reconnected through this ed tech world, telling your story. And so many people are out there in your communities telling your story. And so I think getting on the forefront of that and telling your story through social media is so powerful. With you all in JCPS, you guys are kind of the nucleus for all things that happen in education in Kentucky. And so I just think what you guys have done there with JCPSForward and just, really telling the story of JCPS has just been very powerful, especially in the last couple of years. But I want to head over to the chat really quickly. Some of the comments with the hash tracking service, several people chimed in that IFTT is an alternative service. And I think Elaine has some more info on that in just a second. But we just kind of want to give some shout outs. We've got Stephen Carter, who is my sped techie buddy there in JCPS, is tuning in today. We've got Nick Brooks coming in. I think, where are you, Nick? Where did I see that? Wolf County Middle Schools. We've got Sharice Lattimore has a question about how much it is for the district. And then Chris Lacey said IFTT as well. So Elaine, can you share a little bit more about IFTT?
So when we started tracking the Kentucky Go Digital hashtag, we noticed, I thought, I want to know a history of who all's tracked or who all's tweeted and what they said. And because I can't always find a tweet on Google when I Google it, because I like to scroll and I'm like, oh, I remember a tool, but I can't find who sent it and all that stuff in that exact tweet. So I think Brooke shared it with me. It's IFTT, and you can set up tons of little, and I call them bots. They're just little like algorithms that follow things, and you set up where you want to follow a certain hashtag, and it'll put it all on a Google spreadsheet for you. And so that way you can jumble a whole bunch of stuff and make use formulas, but that way it's like a history, and so you can actually archive all those tweets if you want, and that's absolutely free. It's called IFTT, and you just follow it and you just connect with it. Pretty simple.
Can I ask a question about IFTT? Does it give you visual information other than just the tweets?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, it just gives you as far as the one I'm using. It just gives you the actual history of the tweets. And then I use actual formulas to see, I think it's the count if formula, to see how many people have tweeted, and then also how many times they've tweeted. And then that gives me.
You can also just make charts and graphs out of what ends up in Google Sheets. So it's if this, then that. So you set up your formula. If somebody tweets with this hashtag, then this happens. Put it on my spreadsheet. And then once it's in Google Sheets, you can do a million things with it. You can make all kinds of visuals with it. So we've done that for our hashtag too, to pick a winner every month of who's tweeting on our hashtag. And it's been really helpful.
I think we just determined another show, guys, on this right here.
Here we go. Analytics. Elaine is I'm going to admit that Elaine is higher level functioning in the Google world than I am. I like most about hash tracking is just that I can build reports that can be that you can then send a snapshot of certain months to certain months. We are JCPS for over a year now, and I can see how many folks in just a one-shot visual. And from that report, I can pull up who's tweeted the most, who's tweeted the often, which tweets have gotten the most interaction and things like that. So I think that mine is prettier. Brooks is probably much more thorough in terms of that. And Sharis had asked the question about getting that for the district level. Sharis, we already have that in JCPS, and we track those three. We track JCPS Chat, We Are JCPS, and JCPS Backpack. So if you want to pop over to my area of the building one day, you and I can talk about it. But you can add 3, 6, or 10 hashtags at one time. And you can also do Instagram with that.
Mimi, I have probably a stupid question.
Sure.
Okay. So besides like the cool factor, what does this do? How does this help you craft your story for what you want to showcase? Like the analytics and stuff, it's cool to look at, but I want to know like the meat of it. How does this help you?
So one of the things that I do with hash tracking is I do some data research on the back end, looking at who has shared links. So I can go back in and pull those up chronologically by links. And I can also, over a course of time, look at, so if I look at JCPS Backpack, and we've been tracking it since August 7th, maybe, I could look through and see what educators are using that the most. And I could, if I wanted to reach out through JCPS Forward and find some folks to write about their practice or write about the implementation of the backpack, I can use that. I can also, I am very methodical with our 170, I don't know how many schools, of finding the folks in each building who are active on social media and who we're already doing work with in JCPS Forward. So I spend a lot of time studying the analytics on the back end of the JCPS STLP event that we had last week. So I can go back in and search through that hashtag and find out who's interacting, and I can follow back up with those schools. And I can cross-reference with who went to state and reach out to them beforehand to have them share out their day. We find folks that are potential leads for district chats, and then we can go in and find folks that we're interacting with beyond JCPS. Does that make sense?
Oh, it absolutely does. It's very helpful too. Like I was scribbling down notes as you were talking.
The other thing that I like, and Heather mentioned it with hash tracking, is you can take that snapshot. You can also do graphics of it, pulls together which words are used the most over the course of time. And it has a transcript as well. I don't like the transcript as much to share. The Wakelet is prettier, but it has a transcript that you can sort in a lot of different ways. You can sort top users, top tweets, most engaged. So I spend probably 2 or 3 hours after each chat just trying to dissect who to reach out to and who to follow up with.
I know that one way, Elaine, last year we had a vision for Connected Educators Month, and we had seen a periodic table of, we decided to make it of connected educators here in Kentucky, people who have tweeted to the Kentucky Go Digital hashtag, and really just celebrate that connectivity with the movement. So Elaine used IFFT. Did I say it right? I don't know, because we needed a way to really understand, like, when a person tweets, how do we get their name to then populate the periodic table? So I love the word free. The F word is what I call it. So I think that IFTT is the free option. I think Nick Brooks said he looked it up and it was like $50 a month, which for a small school hash tracking might be a little bit expensive. So we're going to build you a show. We'll have Elaine come on and show how to use IFTT to give you the power of pause with that. So Mimi, what else do you have for us?
So I want to talk about photo release forms and share a story. At Greenwood, I was always the person that wanted to make sure that we had photo release forms for all our kids. And I kind of took it for granted, and I would follow up. So at the beginning of the year, any family that turned in a photo release, I would always follow up with them just to make sure, especially when we started to our social media pages. And so one time I reached out to a parent and asked if they minded if we use things on social media, and she started crying. And because I'm thankful that she felt comfortable enough with me to tell me, but they were in the witness protection program. And so you never know why someone doesn't want their photo released of their child. I always will keep a list of, when I go into a school, if I'm there often, I will go ahead and ask for the list. If I'm of who they have that have their photo releases. I will ask a teacher when I come in the room who doesn't have their photo release. I will make sure that I keep that really in the front of my mind. I have 2 photo releases, like the old school photo release and a new school photo release. And to me, if you are sharing on social media and you let parents know that they're going to be able to see what their kids are doing, for the most part, I think people are more apt to share. There are going to be those folks that will say, no, I don't want my child's picture, and it's okay, I don't care, and that's fine. We've done the blurry thing, we've done the smiley face over the kid, and sometimes those I don't think sit well. And so I go in, if I know there's someone in a class that I don't want their picture, I'll try to take a back shot of that kid and still have them in there. I'll try to take a wide shot, but I always try to know that, because it's just that one time. Had I not checked with that parent and we shared out that girl's picture, I don't know what would have happened, and I only can assume that it would have been bad. Another thing that I wanted to make sure that you thought about before we start really getting into how you start sharing is graphics and your photos. How many? I know that I have been into a PD that I'm excited to take photos of what's going on. And I've selected some from JCPS, and if you look at that top right, I can't really tell what's going on there. So if I'm going to take a picture, I want to make sure that that picture is telling a story. I like to make sure that I'm not overly zooming, because that comes in blurry. I like to make sure that kids are actively learning, and I don't mind to show kids at play, because we know that is a vital part of the day. Parents love to see what their kids are doing, and I always am hoping that if a person looks at a photo, that they will be able to get that story. So if you look at the photo on the bottom left, those kids were having Veterans Day at a school, and they were able to get those kids in there. Oh no, not Patriots Day, Flag Day, and they were able to get the kids and show their patriotism, and you could tell what's going on. I love group shots. You can't get enough of them, but I also know that the bigger that group is, the harder that it is to get everybody in there. So I have gotten to where I try to share less big group shots and try to get more small group shots. When you guys take photos at the district level, Brooke, what is your new policy that you're using this year, if you don't mind me asking?
Policy for?
Do you have a theory or a technique or
like for taking pictures?
Yeah, when you're in schools, does your district have a policy now that you're in and out of schools a lot? I know that when I'm in and out of schools, I know what JCPS does, but I also like to ask that school.
One of the things that we have implemented this year is sort of a hub for Google Photos and Google Photo albums. So we have like a main blogger, which was your very first question. How do you share and communicate with your school community? And so Wes has a blog where that's like our hub. It's our ncspride.blogspot.com. So it's open to the world, so y'all can go there. And then off to the side, you'll see NCS Energize, and that's actually my blog. So on my NCS Energize blog, you will actually be able to see each individual school and then the photos that have been shared in those albums. And those photos are actually what helps us generate content for our Facebook page. And so it's one of our cultural priorities for Nelson County schools is shared leadership. And that is one of the things that I'm focusing on, is building an energy team where we have just a community of school leaders, of teacher leaders, of student leaders, and also parent leaders that is really helping us create energy and promote NC Pride within our entire school community. So that's working out really well. You'll see more schools have more pictures than the others. but that's kind of what we are utilizing. And one of the things that I have really, I'd heard about it in the past, but never really done a whole lot with it. But that's Snapseed, the free app that's very Photoshoppy, but like you don't have to have a skill set to be able to use it. It's just like real super easy to slide and drag and whatever. And so you'll see a lot, like on our Facebook page, a lot of photos that have been edited. And so we'll grab the photos from the albums off my blog, do some fancy stuff to them, and then we'll reshare those. And so it's a little bit more organic because those photos are actually coming from the teachers and the students who are sharing them themselves because it's stuff they're proud of. So it's kind of what we're doing right now.
I am trying to imagine that awesome program at the scale of JCPS and the amount of pictures, and my mind is, I think you broke my mind. You may have, I'll have to process that. I love that idea though, especially in a smaller district where you can pull things. I know that as a person that worked in the communications department of JCPS and talking about themes, JCPS really, the communications team will look at what schools and teachers are sharing on that We Are JCPS hashtag. And actually, that's how they curate their content for videos and for stories. And you will see some schools that really do a masterful job of it. And one of the things that we're doing now is we have Tony Cons on our staff in the communications department, and she's actually coming to schools that maybe aren't as strong with social media platforms and actually going and helping them. So I know that social media is a huge part of it, but when we're talking about reaching parents and trying to get engagement, I do want to be cognizant of creating things that can go out. And so I wanted to talk about Canva. And I am sure that most of you ladies use Canva. And Heather, when you mentioned hash tracking versus IFTT and one being free, I use Canva because of that. I know that Photoshop makes these really stylish graphics and people. I have a person with JCPSForward. We're blessed to have Angie Yasayer that creates all of our really, really formal graphics, but I use Canva for everything. And Canva, you can use it free. And I have Eyedropper, the Chrome extension on this slide. I went to the paid Canva account because I wanted to get the JCPS and the JCPSForward colors. And I actually went back to a free account this year because of Eyedropper, because I can pull any color off of any graphic on the web and then add that into my Canva. And I love Canva. We have tried to get more and more schools in JCPS to take their transparent logos and message with that. So and again, I've got No More, but No uses Canva for ball games, for PTA events, and they have that logo and they keep that same format and they use that with consistency. And they have really gotten to be very efficient. I do see that I misspelled efficient. But they've gotten very efficient at creating things on the go, which is what I've done with JCPS. And for the newsletter, I know that a lot of folks have gone to just using a Google slide for the week and sharing that out with staffs and sharing that out with parents. And there are great links and folks have made that their own. I have a Smore account that is a newsletter, and it is free for the first 3 times that you make one, and they kind of reel you in because it is so easy to use and so easy to share and visually appealing. After 3, you can get an educator discount. I think it's like $50 for the whole year. It is completely worth it. I'm going to ask if you guys, what newsletters that you use in your districts, or if anybody in the chat box uses anything else other than Smore or Google Slides.
My son just moved to JCPS, and in Norton Elementary, we have Miss J. Boyd, and she has blown me away with her Google Slides newsletter. And I just went ahead and made it a shortcut on my iPhone. And so every time I need something, now she emails out as well and does Facebook, but if I need the spelling words, it's right there. It's, you know, if I need to know when picture day is, it's right there. And so as a shortcut on your Android or your iPhone, it makes it super easy because it's right there. You don't have to search through your emails or, you know, or make sure that you save that on the fridge and then it's stuck on the fridge instead of where you are.
I know that our district has become so embedded and in love and tied to Google. And I think that people are creating more and more with Google and seeing the ease of it. I started using Smore 2 or 3 years ago because it's so much prettier than a simple email. And when folks like it because you can add graphics, you can add links, you can add videos. Then the easiest thing about Smore is you can just copy that, and it's really easy to change the background and change the fonts. I think now in Google Slides, like you're saying, it's so easy because it's there on your phone. You can bookmark it. With Smore, when you share, each one will come up as a different link and a different Smore. One of the things I love about all of the base camps and all of the home pages for our JCPS schools and our classrooms that are doing that is it's just one link. And like Elaine said, you can go from week to week and catch up. Anything that schools are sharing with parents and community, you know, as long as you've got some links of things that are going on and you're messaging with those parents what they need, it's becoming so much more effective than the Wednesday folder that my son had. You know, and there's nothing against schools that have that Wednesday folder because I was a huge fan of going through the Wednesday folder every night and making sure. But I know that there are schools that there are teachers that maybe forget to send the Wednesday folder home, or there are those parents that are like, oh, nope, the Wednesday folder is full of fluff.
Mimi, I wanted to chime in. I just met with the principal of Roosevelt Perry, and she was in my office just before the show, and she took us to her Google site, which is her staff digital infrastructure. And she had so many different workflows built into her Google site. But interestingly enough, her newsletter she does through Smore because she thinks it's prettier as well. So it's really interesting. I mean, you know, there's a whole buffet of digital tools to choose from, and oftentimes the tools play well together. So she had that Smore linked into her Google site, and it was seamlessly worked for her. So I think you just have to pick and choose what you like. I will admit it, I don't really love Canva. I would rather take a Google slide and design on a Google slide. And I think I saw one of our friends on the chat say something about Google Drawings.
Yeah.
I haven't mastered Google Drawings. I've used it to build resumes before, and then I got lazy and just put it on Fiverr and let someone else build my resume for me. But I've played and dabbled in the different tools, and I think you just have to find the tool that feels right for you. One size does not fit all when it comes to digital tools.
So one thing that I love about Smore, and was that Marsha Carmichael Murphy that was in there?
No, it was Nicole from Roosevelt Perry.
Right.
Yep.
So one of the things that I love best about Smore, if you're just learning how to use it, it's called the Educator Hive. And the Educator Hive basically has all of these great Smores and great things that are already made that you can copy and use for free. So here is a principal's corner, and you can click on it and you can scroll down to see if you like it. And if you do, you can actually use that as a template and just add all your own information. I see, here's one I love. This is a kindergarten one. I just think it's so cutesy. But it's the week of August 9th through 12th, and then she's welcoming her new kids. And you can see that this is something that is very visual appealing. I know that some folks will actually put a lot of links in their Smores, but I just love the ease of use of just making it and then finding it and copying it. So yeah, I that's my jam, I guess. And I learned in Canva at one of the first Ed Camp Kentucky events, and it like got me, and I've never left. So what other questions do you guys have for me about what I do?
We had a comment in the chat from Chris Lacey, maybe talking, I think maybe, was it Chris or Nick? Nick, maybe. He was talking about newsletters and doing newsletters in slide decks and then screencasting the newsletter. And I will say that that is actually what Wes does with his Principal Pride Weekly. And it's really nice because you get two different styles of newsletters. Like if you're driving in the car, you can turn it on and play it while you're driving and listen to what the content is. But you also have it in a slide deck format, which is really, really nice. And I think sometimes people forget too, like just in terms of, newsletters. I know that, in Nelson County, we don't call anything by its original name. We have other names. To quote, I think Wes and also maybe Seth Godin said, if people aren't confused, you're not doing it right. So anyway, I know newsletter is not the right term, but we do that for so many things. And people forget too that you can turn your slide decks around, paper style for like digital portfolios and stuff. And doing those like custom. Can y'all see my screen? I actually just literally had this open. This is our workforce development director, and this is the internship or externship document that has just like all the agendas in it. And I think for me, what makes me really super obsessed with Google Slides for that newsletter type of communication is just the ability to connect everything together. When I first met Heather and Wes, like eons ago, it feels like, I remember one thing that stuck out in their talk was just that we're going to pick one thing and do that one thing really, really well. And that's why I like keeping everything, in my, like I literally use Google Slides every single day. And like this right here, and I just discovered this, you guys, I know I'm probably like way out of the loop with this, but I just discovered this whole linking, like you can have they're like live charts. Okay, so nobody else is impressed with that except for me, or perhaps you already knew how to do that.
No, Brooke, we
but
use
I was
that.
like, literally, it brought tears to my eyes when I discovered that it was like a live chart from your Google Sheet that you could put in a slide deck. Because that was like a game changer for me to have. Like I have one slide deck that's my entire, like everything for my whole entire job is in that one slide deck. So all the links, everything we need, our budget, our charts, like everything. And I just love that sort of integration.
So Brooke, I would love to do a follow-up show on some of the digital infrastructure work at the district level that you guys are doing. But more specifically to this episode, as we're talking about social media, would you share a little bit about your videos? So Brooke, in this new role as a social media director, she has become quite the video editing expert. And I get the benefit being her friend of seeing all the equipment and learning along with her. But could you just show, like she spends so much time, and when we talk about telling a story, we're talking about social media and we're talking about newsletters and Smore and Screencastify, but the power of a video to tell a story. And I think this is something that a lot of districts have not tapped into, is using videos to tell the story. And I'll tell you, when I knew that they were onto something special, Whitney and I went to the GREC Innovation Summit in Bowling Green, and Chase Goff, who works there on that team, stood up and talked about the vision for Nelson County schools. And behind everything he talked about, one of Brooke's videos conveyed the story, and it was magical and gave me cold chills. So Brooke, could you just show us a little bit of your genius around storytelling with videos? I know this is your new passion project, or talk to that maybe.
Sure. Well, I've been sitting here the whole time, like waiting to talk to y'all about this, but I have two things. Ready? 2 new books for all of you guys out there. If you've not grabbed these and you're dabbling into this world of social media and communicating, this one right here, this is Seth Godin's new book. This is Marketing, and it just came out last week, and it is my absolute new favorite book. If you are a Seth Godin fan and you're really into tribes, he takes a lot of the just the strategy of creating tribes and building tribes and applies that to marketing, and it's genius. And so one of the things that he brings up several times, and I'm not even all the way through the book yet, but it's about crafting that story and telling that story. And we as marketers, because everybody's a marketer, and that's one of the things he talks through, is that we exist to serve. our community, whoever that may be. And so when we think about, like for me, looking at our school community in Nelson County, what does our community need? And so that's really been the driving force behind everything that we've done. So, you know, the videos that let me share my screen here real quick.
I know you
the
just
videos
released a very fun video as part of a series that has been cracking me up today. I don't know if you're going to share that or just share some of the videos.
Yeah, well, I won't share the whole thing, but I'll give you a little sampling. But you know, to answer that question, what does our community need? We needed opportunities to connect together as a school family. And so one of the things we started doing back in August was we actually created what we call the Pride Games. And so we're using naturally occurring events in our community to just bring our schools together and have fun together and connect with each other. So one of the naturally occurring events is the Bardstown Christmas parade. And so what we decided to do is release a series of videos that feature some very familiar faces in our district that just really promote fun and excitement. So this is one of our elf parodies. So this is one of our I giggle every time I watch it, but you know, it's fun and it's building community. And I know, Heather, you and your gals are getting a kick out of these videos too, which there's still a few yet to be released.
So that's a maintenance. One of the maintenance leaders, he's been there forever, happens to also be one of my dear friend's father. But the fact that you got him in an elf costume to do this parody, and what these videos do is it shows that you can have fun in this work. And, you know, you're building culture and celebrating the Pride Games. And it's just all of the videos. Brooke, what about the video of the little girl talking about the project-based learning assignment? That was really powerful as well. So some of these videos build culture and enthusiasm for upcoming events, but how you're using videos to celebrate kids and kids innovations also very special. I don't know if you can find that one right away. We can always post it in the show notes if needed, but just the videos to tell the story are very special.
This particular video, Miss Medley and her third grade team of teachers did this project-based lesson where her students were redesigning their playground to increase accessibility. And so one of the things that their goal was to be able to give their students like a larger audience and a more authentic audience. So they didn't want this to just like, oh, a panel of district leaders, you know, comes in and listens to their kids. She wanted to be able to showcase the work of their kids on a much broader scale and to really show them the scope of their potential impact. So we filmed this video. Let me see if I can skip to, anyway, all of these videos are on our Facebook page. So you're more than welcome to go check them out there. But, you know, the bottom line is creating a story and being able to show up consistently for the people that you're serving and to tell those stories to your community. So it's been really fun. I could talk for another like 3 hours, so I'll shut up, but I love it.
You know, when I was at the Moorhead KY Go Digital event this summer, I was in a session with Greg Goins, and he was showing the cutest video that a principal had, and he put that out in his weekly newsletter. So it was a video embedded in a newsletter that he sent out, and it was first grade or kindergartners, and they were reading what all of the different grades were doing. And so here's a little kid that pops up and he goes, in the 5th grade, we are learning about, and it was so cute to see those kids that were sharing out the information and that principal really meeting folks where they are. And I know that we've been going back to that video, and I see Brooke's really quality videos at that district level. So this was just a building leader that was making a video that he uses every week. And I want to share one that was on Twitter yesterday from one of our JCPS schools. And this is fourth graders from Wilkerson Elementary. So let me see if I can pop this up full screen. And this is what they're doing with their digital backpack.
Two fourth graders explaining how they are filling the backpack. My name is Robert. My name is Gayle, and this is Eastern Kentucky Colored Field. We love this flag. The brown represents the stem of all trees, and the red and yellow represents.
So you can see that even the students and those schools are using that messaging and videoing, and they're sharing that out with their staffs and their community as well. So I think it's important that I love the way that our JCPS folks do. Jason and Heidi come out and they're so slick and polished, but there's something about the girl with the logo that the flag was like shining through that I've watched that 3 or 4 times, and I always laugh that the W is covered by the multicolored flag. So I think that as we move forward with technology, you're going to see more and more folks that are leaving the newsletters and that are leaving those things, and they're going more and more towards videos and more towards, like Elaine said, putting that link on the phone that you can that pull up what's going on every week, because that's meeting the audience where they are. Some schools try to put all of their eggs in the Twitter basket, and you can't do that because there's not a lot of your parents that are actively using Twitter, where Brooke just showed the Facebook page for Nelson County. That's where a lot of our parents are. And you look at More, and they're using Instagram, and they're using Twitter, and they're using Facebook, and they're using YouTube, but they're using all of them in a different way to create that really nice polished product. I love when Rob is on and telling about what's going on to be happening at More as he's driving to work in the morning or giving his thoughts, because that is an inside look at how that school really functions. And it is obvious that #NoMore mentality has permeated beyond the walls of Moore High School, and it's extended out.
I think so much of what we've talked about today too, we're a tiny district, and I know there are a lot of tiny schools and districts out there. We have a PR person, but she does about 20 other jobs, and we don't have a team. We are the digital media team. Our teachers are, our students are. So a lot of the tools that we've talked about today can be done on a school level, on a district level, but for us, and we're in competition. We're all in competition sometimes. And if we don't tell our story, somebody else is going to. So it's important that we put out that positive story. And just, I take every time Brooke posts something, I think, how could we modify that to be something that would work for our district? And it may not. It may just not be something we can do. But if I can take it and put it on a smaller scale or make it something that works with our schools and districts, then I do it. I figure out how to make that work for my district. So I think you don't always have to go shoot for the moon. Sometimes it can be, we did a hashtag challenge with #Murray Schools. It's not very catchy. It's not very original, but it works. And then all of a sudden, using TweetBeam and some other tools, I have natural PR for our district just from inside of our classrooms, from what our teachers have shared. And it makes our teachers feel valued on what they're doing as well. So, take these little things if you're a small district and see where you can incorporate them and what's easy for you.
And I like how Mimi talked about the team and having a plan. You can tell that Brooke and Wes and what they're doing in Nelson, and even in JCPS, there is a plan behind what they're doing and a vision, and using the digital tools to connect everyone in your district, no matter how small. I'm with you, Whitney. I may have 11 schools, but we're really small. But to have a plan and letting everyone have a part of that is kind of what this is about, building that culture. It's not about the tools, it's about the culture that you're bringing about, and giving that window of that transparency for parents and community to see all the awesome things we're doing in our schools. It's powerful, and it can send a message that will last, a long time. So we have to do it.
Oh my gosh. So you basically quoted like something that I literally just had flagged in this book to read. I'm going to read you. It says, if you want to make change, begin by making culture.
Oh.
Mic drop, and you nailed it, sister.
I love Seth. I remember a few years ago, I had a principal that was afraid of social media. And I know that there are still places that fear it. And I can't believe how much of a transformational factor that building your brand can be, because I think it was Whitney, you said you are in a competition, we're in a competition, we're all in a competition, right? And it's not just school versus school, but you're trying to attract, you want to get quality families. You want to get everyone. You want to know that every family coming into your building has a pathway, or your district has a pathway to interact and know. How often do you hear, oh, we didn't know there was an event. Oh, we didn't know there was a PTA meeting. This is the way to build your brand. It's not just about what's going on inside that classroom. It's about the whole school as a whole and your district as a whole. And I think if you look at what you all are doing in Nelson County, it shows, and it makes people get invested, because when you turn on the news, what do you usually see? Oh, a teacher got in trouble for this. Oh, teacher did that. Well, that helps combat the negative, because you're spreading the positive. That's one of the great things about We Are JCPS. The intent of that hashtag is to spread positive stories in our district. And so it's more important than ever that educators and districts and schools are the ones that spread their message.
I mean, I think that wraps it up. I mean, that the message has to be sent in a positive way, because there is so much positivity in our districts. This show has been really special for me because Mimi, I'm going to claim her, is an Eastern Kentucky gal.
In your heart.
So, huh?
I said always in my heart. When I go places, I will say I teach in JCPS, but I'm from Eastern Kentucky, so my heart will always be back in the hills.
But I mean, we're all connected with the digital tools, and I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing, and for everyone being able to learn from one another. Brooke shared some awesome stuff too. But what I'm really, really excited about is what Brooke Whitlow is getting ready to share about our next show, because this is going to be exciting. Again, no pressure, Brooke.
Well, I'm so excited to tell you guys about our next episode, which is on December the 8th at 11 a.m. at KentuckyGoDigital.com. We are doing a special episode, What Your Kids Really Want for the Holidays. So this episode is going to be super special. We are going to pull in some great panelists and really kind of talk about the stuff that nobody really, like, we're like, what do they want? What is that again? If I had a nickel for every Facebook direct message that I got at the holidays, like, hey, my kid's really into this. What should I get them for Christmas? So we are going to cover all of those needs for you in our episode on December 8th. So subscribe and don't miss out on this one.
Awesome. And make sure you join in. Heather, do you want to talk about how else? I know we talked about Facebook, but how else can people stay connected to KY Go Digital?
Well, real quick, I just want to say, I think during that episode, I'm just going to have my Amazon account open, and just like everything that comes up, I'm going to put it in my cart. I'm so excited about that episode, and looking forward to it. So how to stay connected, as always, our hashtag. I always say, when it comes to your social media strategy, you need one, first of all, and then stick to it. So with Kentucky Go Digital, our strategy has been very simple from the very beginning. Our hashtag Kentucky Go Digital, our YouTube channel, which we are all on right now, and then our regional events. And we've been working already behind the scenes talking about next summer's Kentucky Go Digital Regional Summer Tour. So those are our 3 ways.
All right. Until then, thank you again, Mimi, panel. It was an awesome show, and we will see you in a few weeks.
Get involved with Kentucky Go Digital. Attend regional events, like us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel.